DDG, episode 69. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How is it going, Dave? The weather has finally turned. Winter seems to be over. It's kind of nice today. We were just talking about how we went over-prepared into the outside world, only to find out, like, oh no, we're finally done with winter.
Yeah, like, it's crazy when, like, 40 degrees feels like a heat wave. Yes.
Yeah, that's Midwest. It's almost time for shorts.
I've seen, like, the news where, like, Houston or Texas was, like, a post-apocalyptic world, and then, like, now people are out golfing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, their turnaround weather-wise is way more dramatic. We're crazy, and it's 45, and it's just like, oh, man, this is time to go to the park weather.
Yeah. My side street is a river, though, so hopefully that stays in the street and not in the houses.
Been seeing a lot of articles in Chicago about, like, hey, maybe don't use your dishwasher or washer right now because, like, everything's flooded or is about to be flooded. So yeah, I'm waiting for that. Like, I've been off the last 5 days from work, so I haven't had to deal with the outside world. Not looking forward to the puddles and all that stuff I'm gonna have to deal with. Cars splashing me when I'm walking.
All right. We are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday at 6 a.m. on podcast services of choice, as well as on digitaldaysgaming.com. We record the show live on Twitch, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming, Tuesday afternoons around 5 o'clock Eastern time. And like I said, the show goes live on Thursdays on audio services, as well as YouTube when we remember. So, yeah. So if you're not subscribed to YouTube, please consider doing that. I do have some other ideas for YouTube down the road. I'm still working on some things and trying to make ease of use a little bit easier for both of us, myself in particular first, and then just to be able to post more consistent content on there, because I do believe that in order to grow Twitch and the podcast, that the growth will come through the discoverability of YouTube. It's just a matter of dedicating the time to it. And one of the ways that it will help motivate that to me is to see a number go higher. So if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing, as well as following us on Twitch, and all the other social networks will be in the podcast notes that are attached to the service you use. And if you could leave us a review, that would be much appreciative.
It's okay, Dave.
Well,
it's okay.
As well as just sharing the show. So we actually have some news to talk about. So we're gonna dump right into the news.
Shit,
I can't talk
Dave,
today, so.
You're a fucking mess. You talked about how you're feeling a little off today, even though you've been off from work. But all right, let me see if I can steer this.
That'll be a new thing. We're gonna dump to the news.
Yeah, news dump. I mean, that's basically what Sony did, and we'll talk about it later. Sony they dumped so much news today. But the first set, which I commented the day before we recorded, I'm like, oh shit, we have news from every one of the major platforms today. The first one is kind of a quick story because there's not too much here for it just yet. But Microsoft announced with the Xbox Series X and S, they're going to add a FPS boost technique to backwards compatible games. So this isn't just what we're currently seeing on the both consoles, where they're basically the hardware can push the games to their current cap, and keep them steady. It sounds like they're going in and they're actually removing that cap from some games, which is leading to games running 2 to 4 times their normal FPS output. So we're talking about some games going from 30 to 120 frames.
Yeah, there's a situation happening with the current gen consoles, PS5s and Xbox Series, that games have always had the possibility of running at a higher resolution and frame rate, but the hardware was stopping that from happening. So then when you were starting to play these games on the next gen consoles, or now current gen consoles, they just worked automatically better because there was no restrictions or restraints on them.
Yeah.
Now this is them actually going in and saying, like one of the games as an example, like Watch Dogs 2. Like Watch Dogs 2, I'm guessing, had a hard cap of 30 frames.
Yes.
They are going in and removing that hard cap and moving it to 60 or 80. We don't know, but they're actually like going into the software and changing it.
Yeah, and so right now there's only a couple games because this is something we're going to test and roll out over time. It's like Lucky Tales, Super Elite 4, UFC 4, Watch Dogs 2, Far Cry 4. So it's a very random assortment of games, but they're testing this out, and it doesn't require the developers to do anything. though they do work with the developers to be like, hey, your vision for this game might not work at 120 frames, so like it's up to you if you want us to do this work and change it for you, or if you don't want that to be the case, then we won't touch your game. So it depends on the game, there's been a lot of talk about like how people have been wanting From Software to increase the frame rate or take the cap off Bloodborne on PlayStation, and there's been a debate on like, yeah, it's locked at 30, but all the movement and all the animations are designed around 30 frames, so it's a lot harder for From Software to just drop in and like unlock that frame rate or put it at 60. So this is Xbox focused, but this is why the Microsoft is just reaching out to developers and describing random games just to be like, hey, you built this game a certain way. It might look weird if we go past the frame rate that you designed. Will you allow us to like fuck with your frame rate?
It's very interesting that the hardware companies, or like Microsoft in this example, is wanting to do it. And I would also assume that they're footing the bill.
Yeah, they would have to.
So like, 'cause it's like, so this is one of those things where, years ago I had a conversation with Stuart Gilray at our previous thing where it was like, is it financially worth it to boost your game, like to boost a 4, 5, 6-year-old game, to go in and do the development time to make the game run better? And he made it seem like it was, but he also made it seem like it would be in certain situations, if the games had legs, like who's still playing Watch Dogs 2? And let alone who's playing Watch Dogs 2 on PS5 or on Xbox Series. And like, I'm sure that there are some, like I'm not disputing that, but it's interesting that just to see them to do this. Now, this could be like a caveat for their ability to pitch to other gaming companies as, like, and I go, all right, whatever, community may or may not roll their eyes, but hey, if you bring your game to Game Pass, we can also make it run better.
Yeah, which could increase sales, because some developers are saying that like when they put their stuff on Game Pass, it sells better.
But it could be just another caveat of a reason for a developer to maybe put their game on Game Pass on day one, possibly. Like, I mean, that's me maybe stretching it, but it's like, why, like if you're a developer, like why would I, if my game potentially blows up, why would I want it to be on Game Pass? Because that could, in theory, be crippling your sales, but at the same time, it could also be getting, millions of eyes on your game.
Yeah, my take on it is hardware teams, for manufacturers do this stuff all the time. It's just whether it makes it to public or not. You always, you're not going to just tell the hardware team after they push out the console, like, all right, you guys are done for 6 years, or, until we push out the next one. You let them tinker and you let them mess around with their tool set to see how much they can get out of it. And stuff like this happens. It's just Microsoft is just being like, let's just put it out there. Let's just have, even if this program fails and only 12 games happen, it at least gives their hardware and software teams experience on, doing this sort of thing that could pay off for them, if there's another generation of consoles.
Yeah, like I guarantee you, like similar to how if you look on your phone, like when you get an app update, sometimes there's like, we did this, and this to make this work better, or we fixed this issue. Like, I'm sure that in the game development world, like Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo release developmental updates to their hardware saying, we figured out this file compression thing, we figured out this frame rate thing, and then if you do this, and this, you can get better performance. And that's why obviously games get tremendously better over a console's generation. And some of that's from the software teams as well, but some of it's, like I'm sure whatever email goes out or release goes out of, like, if we read it, we'd be like, what the hell does that say? And some other developers like, oh, I can increase my frame rate by reducing my glare. And I'm like, what? Hardware companies doing this stuff, they obviously want the best of the best possible product out there.
Yeah, I'm hoping this kind of, I complained about it, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, of just like some backwards compatible games just aren't existent. At least it shows that like Microsoft's still working on like their backwards compatibility tech. Hopefully this leads to like maybe some games that weren't on the initial backwards compatible run because their frame rate ran like shit. And they put some work in and maybe they'll add more to that library. But we'll at least find out more of this in the spring update for the Xbox, because this is when the feature will come in, and it'll just be an option for like an FPS boost, kind of like the boost mode sort of thing, but this one will be taking a cap away. All right. Next story we have is the kind of underwhelming BlizzCon 2021. I don't think it's necessarily their fault. It was underwhelming, COVID and stuff. Kind of, BlizzCon is a very much a community-driven event, an in-person event. So just it being brought down to just like, here's a slide, a presentation.
A company that built their lifestyle on massive online multiplayer games.
Yeah.
Like,
so this one just felt, like just not too exciting, but it was very Diablo focused. So the main highlights, they released a classics Blizzard pack with 3 games that me and Dave probably don't know anything about. Because
I saw the trailer for them. I'm like, I those games look cool. I just don't want to play them.
I've heard of Rock and Roll Racing, but I've never seen it. And then the other games, I didn't either. But so those came out. It's like that's
like
already
$40,
out,
right? $30 or $40, yeah,
something like that.
It looked really like in terms of like the old version versus the new version, and putting all 3 of them together and having the ability to play the game if you liked them before, and like. Cool, like awesome, good job, Blizzard. So
it's a thing that companies just do. It's an easy thing for them to develop. But that's not an understatement. But it's just something that they can put out. People will be excited for that. So the Diablo 4 trailer was there. It was a really cool trailer. It introduced the new rogue class, so they talked a little bit about that. But it's not coming out this year, so. That's a little disappointing. But that was given, was it last week when they did their financial call? They said like, hey, don't expect Diablo 4 or Overwatch 2. And then the big thing, I guess, from this press conference that isn't the World of Warcraft stuff, which I'll just never understand, is Diablo 2 Resurrected. This is a remaster of the Diablo 2, which we knew about from the leaks a couple weeks ago.
The Vicarious Vision collapser.
Yeah. So this is, full remake, 3D models, 3D environments, with the ability to switch to the old game with a click of a button. It's coming to pretty much everything. I think it is actually coming to everything. PS4, PS5, Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch, and then PC.
Which I guess would be expected, because I'm sure this isn't like this isn't hardware limitations. This is just taking a 20-year-old game and making it look better and run better. And the fact that they're doing cutscenes is amazing.
Yeah, there's 27 minutes of cutscenes, and they're gonna fully remaster those. The thing that I was happy about, which is they're not gonna rebalance the game. They're not doing any gameplay tweaks. They want it to play exactly the same. So they're not gonna, do revisionist history on some of the stuff, especially like Diablo games. Pretty straightforward how you play them, so it makes sense that they wouldn't rebalance classes or enemies. So that's a nice touch.
I'll be very curious to see like how much more intelligent the Diablo player has become, and doing something in Diablo 2 with the way that players' minds think now, of finding out like, well, I can really wreck shop if I do this, this, and this, something that maybe wasn't thought about 20 years ago. And they won't rebalance. They're not changing anything now, but I would figure that this game may get a balancing patch at some point in time after it's out in the wild, just because newer, younger generation of players doing something, playing it differently. Macros are more of a thing. There's a lot of more things that could be out there that somebody's like, oh shit, that's really broken.
Yeah, I wonder if they want to do that. It seems like Activision, with how they've been doing it, or Activision Blizzard with their remakes, is just kind of put the new fresh paint on the old game and then don't touch too much with it. But I can see them maybe adding like a different difficulty, because game might be easier now.
I guess at the same time, this isn't really a game, like a service game right now. This is just, hey, play through what all the content is there, and it's all there. It's not like you're preparing for something in 6 months or an expansion in a year.
Yeah, and they mentioned that like the previous expansions would be coming to it. It's priced pretty decent. It's $39.99, which is a good price point for this sort of thing. So $39.99, maybe not the best price for a game this old, but for Activision Blizzard, it's a good price, because they're definitely a $60
after Tony
company.
Hawk. After Tony Hawk, I think that this is in line with what they've been doing. Like, they're doing a lot of work to it. It looks like they're in, and we'll talk about the company maybe not doing a lot of work to something and charging more. But they're doing a lot of work to it. They've done a really good job with some of their other previous remasters or remakes that they've been doing, and they've been properly aligned in pricing. And they appear to be selling well enough. So
they do seem to be on a bit of a roll with this. So this is coming out this year, though. So we'll see that. And then finally, just a little thing in here, because the whole reason I watched the BlizzCon thing was for some Overwatch news, and they did not show much. The stuff they did show was very little. So they showed how they're tweaking some of the characters. Some of the, like, Reinhardt he's going to have an ability to cancel some of his current movements. They just kind of talked about stuff that was just basic patch stuff that they've been doing.
Quality of life stuff, it sounded like, right?
Yeah, and like they talked up about, like, we're redesigning some of the characters, and it literally was like, this one's hair is longer, this one's beard longer, they have more robotic stuff on their outfit, and it's like very, very simple changes, which for a game that's not coming out this year, because they reiterated this game's not coming out anytime soon, they didn't do anything that made me excited for it, and I'm wondering if they're just going to be, like, held back because of the plan for Overwatch 2 to be integrated into Overwatch 1, in terms of, like, all the players are gonna, or all the characters are gonna be in both games, and all the maps are gonna be in both games. All that stuff just seems like it's kind of holding this back. It seems
like it's just seeing it from, I guess, my perspective, and I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, is that this is not, I don't feel like this is Overwatch 2, this is Overwatch 1.5 as an expansion.
Yeah, and the way they were talking about certain things of just like, we might just get rid of game modes, and we don't know yet. We might get rid of Overwatch 1 game modes, and the idea that they're like, we're just going to kill some game modes, but because it's across 2 games, then if 2's getting new game modes and 1's not getting those game modes, and they take modes away from, like, it just, to me, it just seems like,
why are they even doing
mess.
2? I mean, like, we got the same it's not in our news post this week because it's not as big of a deal, but I read an article. It fascinated me to read the article because, like, the headline drew my attention. Rainbow Six Siege has slowly turned from a team-based tactical shooter to a hero style shooter, and they've done it all under Rainbow Six Siege, like. And they're doing it on PC. They're doing it on next gen. They're doing it on current gen, and, like, they're adding operators. They're adding maps. They're adding things. They're adding stuff, like, all the time. And they don't need Rainbow Six whatever, like, or Rainbow. As dumb as it sounds, they're not doing Rainbow Six 2 or Rainbow 7. Like, they're just continuing to build on this, and, like, at this point in time, like, I think you even said it, like, Overwatch should just be free to play at this point in time, rely on the loot boxes and the microtransactions, and add more stuff, because going into a sequel, like, what new and innovative thing are they doing? And it doesn't sound like it's anything right now. Are you getting any new maps? I don't know. I would assume you are going to get new maps, but are you getting any new heroes? Have they said anything about new heroes?
Yeah, they showed one of the heroes. I believe there's going to be a handful of new heroes, but those heroes are going to show up.
One.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, the only thing that they're really offering in Overwatch 2 is, like, the co-op mode, and
it sounds like they just want another box on the shelf to sell copies again.
No, that's exactly what it feels like now. Hopefully they prove me wrong. Like, I have faith in, like, the people still at the Overwatch team to give me a reason to purchase it, but it's definitely, they're lining themselves up for something that it just feels like they're just
Right.
They want to have a new box on the shelf.
Yeah, but we're not seeing Minecraft 2. We're not seeing Fortnite 2. We're not seeing Rainbow Six 2. We're not seeing For Honor 2. We're not seeing any of this stuff. And a lot of times, like a game as a service, you're seeing a Destiny 2, and then you're seeing a Division 2, or you're seeing whatever Anthem is or isn't doing. But to where, like, okay, maybe Anthem needs to become 2 instead of trying to build on a dead community. Overwatch's community isn't dead. They don't need to reset it.
I think the only problem is because of the way Overwatch was built. Like, the only thing is our loot boxes for costumes, but if you're still playing Overwatch, you got all the costumes. And they recycle costumes every holiday or every seasonal event. They add like one or two more costumes, and it's the same costumes from the previous years.
Yeah, go try to get this piece you missed.
Yeah, and the base that they already have probably aren't buying loot boxes as much. There's no season pass stuff because there's no reason for it, because it's all costume based. So I feel like they want to just sell another game and just revive the loot box community, or find a way to put a season pass in there.
But with that player base, like, just add the battle pass system to the existing game. Don't pay the $10. You would pay the $10, right?
They would have to increase like the costumes and what you get.
No,
and the
I'm saying if
cosmetics,
they in the next 0 to 100, like a typical battle pass, new costumes, new cosmetics, new emotes, or new I don't even like anything. I don't know the Overwatch terms. I don't know if it's new.
It's emotes and costumes.
New kill animations, new emblems, new banners, new like stuff to show off. Like if they added all new things to it, I think you would pay the $10 a month on top of adding a new map or two or a mode or a seasonal activity. Not here's another $60 game that you need to buy that you can still play, on your previous version, and you can't get this stuff unless you buy the $60 version. It looks like, as much as we are applauding Blizzard and Activision for what they've been doing with Tony Hawk and doing with like what they may be doing with Diablo Remastered and what they've done with some of their other stuff, this looks like a slap in the face to the Overwatch community.
It's not necessarily like full blown slap in the face yet, but it definitely
it's
looking like it looks like they're winding up, like to do that, because they just don't have anything to say. And this is another thing that we've harped on so many times, is when companies announce shit too early. Mm-hmm. Like they announced this like 2 years ago that they're working on it, and they just haven't shown anything. And then when they do their roundtable thing and they're just like, oh yeah, we might take this mode out, we don't really know yet, we're still working on it, it's still ways out. And it's just like leads to too many people like me just being like, okay, what are you doing? I'm getting less excited for this because you don't have a plan. And it just looks like they just want to sell another 40. I think Overwatch was 40 on PC, 60 on consoles. Looks like they're just trying to sell that. It's just like introduce crossplay, introduce something to like revive the community. The community on PC is still thriving. Console community is dwindling over time, which is just how it works. But they haven't given a reason for console players to stick around.
Okay. And to your point, like, and I'm gonna derail this just a little bit and talk about something that you didn't put in the news story, and it may or may not be worth putting in the news in the news rundown. But this goes into where I think it shows that this could work in terms of what we just talked about. Bungie is tripling their studio. They just announced this week that they're tripling the size of their studio, and I think they're doubling their staff, or they're doubling their studio and tripling their staff. Part of it is to work on a new IP that they're working on. Part of it is to go into like the world more of a media entertainment of television shows and stuff. But this is a year and a half after they're split from Activision for the publishing deal. What this tells me is that the small expansion and the $10 every 3 months works, and it works really well. And this is on the heels of like people going last season, like Destiny's dying. The seasonal content model isn't working, and it obviously from a profitability standpoint and a microtransaction standpoint, it is like, do microtransactions drive me nuts in games? Yeah. Has Bungie done a good job of making them purely cosmetic? Yeah. Are people buying them? Looks like it.
Yeah. Or they're prepping themselves for an acquisition. And they're just like, let's make everything pretty. Let's add some bodies.
That's a lot of money to spend, like to hope that somebody's going to buy you or something. I mean, I get, like that's a lot, but it just kind of shows you that like they've been hiring more people. But I feel like something like this could work, and it Overwatch had legs for a long time, like to where there was a lot of people that were playing the game on a regular basis. And I don't know if you have any player populations or you've been paying attention to it, but I would guess that the population is declining, right?
Yeah, when you just look at like the Overwatch League numbers, they're not significantly down, but it's a good portion have moved away. And it's almost like the esports thing kind of hurt Overwatch in terms of just what it did to the online community, like the competitive community, because it just turned into everyone playing the same characters because that's what the meta was, and the meta was dictated by the Overwatch League, and it just kind of made the game just a little bit more stale. But yeah, their numbers are definitely probably going down, but that's makes sense for a game that hasn't put too much effort into like their seasonal content and is about 4 years old now. Especially when you know, they do like 4 or 5 events a year, but it's been the same event over and over again. They haven't really given people too much other than like, oh, this costume's really good. And I have so much, like, I forget what they're called, but like I have the currency, the gold coin currency from all the years that I've played. To
when
where
you
when
see something new you want, you buy it.
Yeah, because I already have 4 years worth of currency just sitting there. So then I get the costume, I put it on, play a match, and then I go away. You know, like I haven't played Overwatch since August. And I put 500 hours into Overwatch every year since it's been out.
My question to you would be, why haven't you played Overwatch since August?
The multiplayer on consoles just got just a little too stale, and there just wasn't too much going on with it in terms of like, every time they did a seasonal event, they would add like 3 new costumes. I would get those costumes for characters I don't even play, and then I would just stop. So like every time there's a season event,
there's not enough reason to play. There's not enough.
Which is why they would
return on investment, right?
Yeah, which is why they would probably
return on time investment. I'm sorry.
Yeah, which is why they would probably need to do a season pass, but that would also that would force them to build up their team again to make sure there's consistent content for that season pass, which doesn't seem like they're willing to do right now, at least for Overwatch 1. I feel like the next announcement we get from Overwatch is like, hey guys, you remember how we said Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 were going to be in the same thing? That's not happening anymore. I feel like that's like the next announcement.
Which it sounds like is what you want, though.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's a horrible announcement to make after like 2 years of telling people like, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. And then having a year from release just pull out and be like, actually, we're not going to do that anymore because you're going to piss people off when you do that.
For sure.
Except me, who's crazy and just is like, no, get rid of them. Get rid of Overwatch 1. Just get Overwatch 2. But that's probably more time than we should have spent on that because there wasn't a lot going on at BlizzCon.
It's still a good conversation. Like it's fascinating to see different games, like how they can look at other games, what works, what doesn't work, and then decide we're going to go that way. I'm like, why?
Yeah. Yeah. When you see Rainbow Six, this being like, hey, it's been 6 years and we're still going strong and we don't plan to stop anytime soon. And then you see Overwatch just being like, I guess it's New Year's. We'll put out that New Year's content again. Here's 2 more costumes. It's kind of a bummer. All right. Speaking of, I guess, bummers, people are really upset with this Nintendo Direct, but Nintendo held a Direct the day after we recorded. So our Tuesday idea was throttled. And messed up. So it had been something like 500 days since the last proper Nintendo Direct, because in 2020 they only did Nindies and game-specific Directs. They didn't do a proper...
I'm guessing the last proper one was E3 2019?
Yeah, it was like 560-something days, something like that. So yeah, it would probably be that, or if they did one for like Gamescom TGS. But yeah, it had been a really long time. So there was a lot of people excited for this, and also Zelda just turned 35 a couple days ago, so people had high expectations for this Direct, which I thought was a good Direct. It just wasn't the mind-blowing thing. Some of the highlights that I put, Dave, you might have different ones. But Xenoblade Chronicles characters are coming to Smash, so more sword characters coming to Smash Brothers, which I think now that game, I feel like of the DLC, like half, if not 2/3 of it, have been like the same type of character for it. Fall Guys is coming to Switch, and then Xbox announced it's coming to Xbox as well this summer.
That's cool. Like, that's a good thing.
I remember when I talked to the devs at E3, they were interested in doing crossplay because at that point it was coming to all the platforms. So I'm hoping they introduce crossplay because
I think with the seasonal model that they have, there's no reason not to. So.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's going to be crossplay between all platforms. That would really help out because Fall Guys, it's still relatively popular, but it's not, like when Among Us struck fire last year, Fall Guys kind of just fell off. So that should be a good way to keep that alive. The Outer Wilds, which was like everyone's darling game of 2019, like indie darling game, is coming to Switch. I could not get into the Outer Wilds too much. This game and
Outer Worlds confused all the time.
All the time, yeah. It is. I think it is on Game Pass right now, and I think I own it on PlayStation. So I probably won't play it on Switch, but I know people will be excited about it. A game I game I potentially am excited about, or two games specifically, is the Famicom Detective Club. These are remakes of some Famicom games that is coming out May 14th. It looks like it is like detective mystery sort of game with like a supernatural element. I love those type of games.
I think that actually perked Angela's interest too.
Yeah, I've been looking for something to kind of get that Ace Attorney vibe from. And this is the closest I think I'll get to Ace Attorney until Capcom does another Ace Attorney game. So I was interested in that. It's expensive though. I think these are like $40 per game. It's not even a pack. It's like $40 per game. Yeah. Which is this fucking Nintendo being Nintendo.
I must say this is Nintendo again, a Nintendo.
Yeah, when I saw the pricing on it, I was like, holy shit, are they crazy? I guess I'll wait for a sale because I don't want to drop $80 on these two games. Mario Golf Super Rush coming out June 25th. This looked pretty good. Not the biggest golf fan, but I like the Mario sports genre or whatever it is.
I think the biggest way that those kind of games have legs, and they've gotten a little bit better with the online component, but it's always been fun to have 4 or 5 people over and play like 4-player split screen, whether it's Mario Kart or golf, or like even like Everybody's Golf on PlayStation was just the ability to hand the controller off and go get up and grab some food while your friends are hitting and then come back and see a shot they hit. Like the party aspect of it, of like a game night, like a social game night, is where the allure comes from. Is that possible right now? No, but hopefully it'll be better this summer.
The rush mode did look really fun, where it's just like everyone just trying to rush through all the holes and first one to finish. Like that looked really fun. So I might pick that up. Though I always say that for a lot of these Mario games. I always say, I'll pick that up when it's on sale, but they're just never on sale, or when they are, they're barely on sale.
$54.99.
Yeah, that happens a lot. A game I had to look up. People were really excited for Stubbs the Zombie, coming March 16th. This is an Xbox game. I have no idea exactly what it is, but you play as a zombie, and a lot of people were excited about it. I put it on here to see if maybe you had any past with Stubbs the Zombie.
I must have missed this when I was reading some recaps and stuff. I'd have to look at a trailer, but it doesn't ring a bell at all.
Yeah, I had no idea what it was, and people were super excited for it. And I was just like, I don't get it. Sadly, the one game I didn't put on this list that I was actually kind of like, that looks interesting, was that DC Superhero Girls game for some reason. When I saw that.
I think I missed that too.
When I saw that, I'm like, okay, I know that is currently like a Mattel doll line, like a Barbie doll line for DC, but that game actually doesn't look too bad. It kind of had like the old Bratz vibe to it, but with like DC superhero characters in it, so that kind of piqued my interest. Then we had No More Heroes 3 coming out August 27th. This one I feel like has been announced for a while, so people were happy to finally get a release date.
Yeah.
I think Suda51 has been asked about this for quite some time, and it's finally coming. I'll actually talk about the first game because I actually started to play it last week. But yeah, this is coming out. Did you have a Wii back then? Did you play the No More Hero games?
I have not played any No More Hero games. I've said they look really interesting, but I've never I never picked them up. So
they're very heavy in the waggle. They do some weird things with the Wiimote.
We'll talk about that next.
Yeah. And then the one Dave is probably excited for, but I think the Zelda announcement that I don't think a lot of people were looking for. Skyward Sword HD is coming July 16th, which is fine. Like, this is it's
a very underrated game.
Yeah,
in terms of story, it's a very underrated game. I'm very interested in playing this game without the waggle, because it was allegedly built from the ground up for the Wiimote and nunchuck. And you had to play it that way, and that was really the only choice that you had. But it is in the Zelda timeline. It is the beginning. So it's very, very cool.
Yeah. So I don't think there's this makes sense to re-release this one. I think people were just upset because it was the 35th anniversary for Zelda, and I'm sure we're still going to get like a Nintendo Direct specifically for Zelda's 35th birthday. They just did that with Mario last year. I think people were just disappointed. They wanted something crazier.
Well, the Mario
or something
stuff
bigger.
was this year. It was January, February. Like that was like when I guess it came out like December 8th or something like that. But it was only going to be available till like March 8th. So they So they kind of bled it into this year a little bit. Zelda's birthday is like just like 2 weeks ago, like you mentioned, but that's technically in Japan. So, and that was Famicom. So like in terms of like Nintendo's, I don't know if they're basing it off on. I do expect to see some Mario-like treatment for a Zelda's games, but I just don't think that Skyward Sword was it.
It was almost just poor timing for like the 30th anniversary being the following week from this Direct. People thought something big was going to happen, and Skyward Sword just wasn't it for a lot of people.
And for people that want Breath of the Wild 2, like you have forgotten how long it takes Nintendo to develop Zelda games.
Yeah, it can take a while. I think people were a little spoiled because I feel like Breath of the Wild was announced and then wasn't too long of a gap, but that was because the Switch was coming out, and they needed a game for the Switch. But
they also were able to keep it very quiet for whatever reason. Like a lot of times the other Zelda franchises leak way, way too early. And I think that's already what's happening with Breath of the Wild too, of like they're talking about it, and it's like, because there's a lot of cool things that Breath of the Wild did, and it's arguably a game of generation for a lot of people. But there are some very annoying things that it did as well, and it's a very big game, and people, I think the expectation is that Breath of the Wild 2 would be bigger and better. That's a lot.
And I honestly think, because like Breath of the Wild sometimes kind of didn't run great on the Switch, even though it was like early in the console's launch. The rumors of the Switch Pro or the Super Switch being a thing, I can see them holding Breath of the Wild 2 back for that.
The rumors, like to your point though, the rumors are like Breath of the Wild 2 is on the same map as Breath of the Wild 1 with some more things happening in the world that allow you to go like farther underground or into other things and into mountains, deeper into mountains and caverns, because that's one thing a lot of people were saying that Breath of the Wild lacked was real dungeons.
Yeah.
And like these dungeons might be like underground or in the mountains, which would be cool and fascinating. But to your point, it would be the same like possible restrictions on how it runs on the Switch. And like Nintendo, like we said it earlier, Nintendo's gonna Nintendo, and if they bring out a pro version, do not be surprised if Breath of the Wild 2 only runs on the pro version. They are not this pro consumer of like, oh, play our games anywhere. They're like, hey, you know what, it don't work.
Yeah, like they'll apologize and then they'll be like, hey, it didn't work out, and we had a vision, and you kind of respect them for that, like they won't. Though, they did release, like, the Wii U Zelda game at the same time as the Switch. But, like, for the most part, like, if they feel like it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And they'll cut ties.
I fully expect all Switch games to work on a Switch Pro, but I don't expect Switch Pro games to work on a Switch.
Yeah, they would probably have to do that cutoff. And then the last announcement was Splatoon 3 coming in 2022. Which there's not much to say. Like there's just like a teaser trailer for that. Who knew that Splatoon would turn into like a pretty big marquee franchise for Nintendo? That's 3 Splatoon games within like.
Well, isn't it almost like a competitive shooter too? Like there's tournaments and stuff with this. Like this is like Smash Brothers with paintball.
Yeah. I mean, it's a FPS, a paintball FPS game. Like it's or third person, but. Yeah, like Splatoon 3 coming out 2022. Like, when did the first Splatoon come out? But, like, it's kind of crazy that this turned into, like, a marquee thing, and, like...
I think the first Splatoon was on the Wii U, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2015. So, like, within, like, 6 years, they're going to have, like, 3 games, which is...
But it's this is the difference, though. This is, like... And I'm not demeaning Splatoon, but it's a simplification of, like, maps and making your character customizable. Doing some other things that shooters like FPS shooters have been doing, but still giving it the Nintendo flair, and you can make 3 versions of a game in 7 years, and then you're sitting over there looking at Zelda. It's taking them 8 years to make a game.
Yeah, different styles of games take different amount of time. So that was it for the Nintendo Direct. Again, I think it was...
Joy-Cons look very, very
Oh,
cool.
yeah, we didn't...
I don't even use Joy-Cons, and I want those. And then Skyward Sword is getting... It's going to work on the Switch Lite and in the Switch in handheld mode, so it's getting controls with the buttons, so non-motion controls, which I think is great. I do think that we're still going to see something this fall, either like maybe a 2-game bundle or something like that for Zelda's 35th anniversary, like near the holiday season.
I feel like
definitely something coming.
Because I don't like Majora's Mask. I don't feel like that gets a full remake treatment. That gets the Super Mario Galaxy treatment of like, okay, we'll put Majora's Mask and like 2 other games in there, Spirit Tracks or something. Will get thrown into like a bundle. Yeah,
there's been a lot of crap about like we just talked about like Diablo 2 being $40 and Tony Hawk being $40 and some of these other remakes, and people are going like, well, look at what look at the disservice Nintendo's doing to its fans. And the problem is that Nintendo will never learn their lessons until their stuff doesn't sell. And for the most part, all their stuff always sells. And there's a guy I follow on Twitter, Benji Sales, and he analyzes a lot of stuff and predicts a lot of stuff. He's usually pretty close. And he's pretty much saying that based on looking at like how well like Hyrule Warriors did in the first 4 weeks, his prediction is with the Switch install base is that Skyward Sword HD will outsell the original Skyward Sword all-time sales in the first quarter it comes out.
Yeah, so many people were pissed off about Skyward Sword, but those damn nunchucks, like everyone wants those, and like, or the Joy-Con, sorry, everyone wants those, and
the Mario collection sold 8.5 million copies.
Yeah,
Sony came out 2 months ago or 2 weeks ago and pounded their chest that Miles Morales sold 4 million copies.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not comparing Sony to Microsoft in that situation, but they didn't do anything to Mario and they sold 8 million copies. They did nothing. They just made it work on the Switch.
Yeah, and
this is at least getting a Switch high definition treatment, however, 720 treatment. And there may be people that never played the Zelda game because they're like F motion controls. And I'm telling you, like, this is one of those games that surprised me. Like the first, I don't even know how many hours I was, but the first third of the game, I'm like, I'm really confused with what's going on here. Like, I don't understand how this ties into like the Zelda franchise. And then click, and like and they did it with Skyward Sword, and they did it with Wind Waker. For me, I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, what are they doing? And then there's this point, and it's like, oh, and then it's like, oh shit.
Well, the funny thing is, like, people were mad that like it was Skyward Sword, but it shot to Amazon #1 within like a couple hours, and it stayed there. And right now it's at number 6.
It just shows the vocal minority doesn't have any power. Like, and I'm sorry, like, but you can't be mad at the company for charging $60 when as soon as the direct ends, people are like making it rain their money on pre-orders. Like, the websites are breaking.
Yeah, it's number 6 right now on the list, and it's like right in between like console sales and like Mario 3D World.
No marketing. Like, that's okay. Nintendo Direct. Here's a thing. Over. Like, that's no YouTube ads at the beginning of videos. That's no commercial during an NFL game. That's nothing. Like, like there's. Like, they're not even trying right now. And
the casual people or the people looking for gifts are like, oh, someone's got a Switch. They'll go to the Amazon bestsellers list and be like, oh, there's a new Zelda, not knowing it's like a remake. Like, oh, it's in the top 10. It's probably fine. So it's going to sell well. All right, let's get into the stuff that kind of just dropped a couple hours before we recorded. Sony's all over the place with their stuff. Like when they made the PS5 announcements through Wired. PlayStation's Jim Ryan did an interview with GQ.
Did he have a shirt off during the interview, or?
No, but he had like a blazer with like a plain green shirt, and he's just smiling. It's a weird thing. I feel like that's one of those things where like they approach GQ like, I want to do a profile on GQ, and they're like, oh, okay, we'll take it. We'll break our website. for a couple hours. So a lot of stuff was dropped in this thing. Okay. First up, I'm just going with like order I felt like things were like important. This isn't everything that was in the article too. This is gonna be one of those like interviews that people are gonna dissect and find little bits here and there over the next like day or so. So we have Days Gone is coming to PC. Jim Ryan talked about how it's going to be important for Sony to put their exclusives on other platforms like PC in the future. So expect more games to come. But Days Gone is going to be like the first one in this new wave. You know, they dipped their toes in it with Horizon. It worked out really well for them in terms of Horizon was on the Steam bestsellers list on and off from like pre-order announcement to launch. Wasn't the smoothest launch on PC, but I believe they patched it and everything's working now. Days Gone is like perfect in my opinion for this sort of thing. Like Days Gone sold better than most people expected, but it didn't have the name recognition to where people would consider it a marquee franchise. But
it
this
also
now
tells me that I don't think that they're done with the franchise as well, which is fascinating.
No, yeah, which makes sense because there's a lot of work put into that tech for this game. So and it's
there's
so
a lot of
well
work put
enough.
into that world, like,
Yeah.
in terms of like what stories that they're trying to tell.
Yeah, so this makes sense for me. I've been, fucking up, checking Twitter and seeing people very upset that Sony's going to put another exclusive on it. But I don't see anything wrong with this, especially if they wait like 2 years after launch.
Yeah, or a year. Like a year. Like, do you want to play the game when it's new and fresh and you're worried about being spoiled? Like you can have your fanboyism on your exclusive platform. But in order for your company to continue to make money, it can't just do that.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where
How many copies would Miles Morales sold if it would have been on a PC as well? 7, 8 million, 9 million? Like, it would have doubled at minimum.
Especially like with the consoles currently just being like, very custom PCs.
Yeah.
It just makes sense of just like, there's probably not a lot of work that has to go into this. I know a lot of work goes into everything, but like in terms of this isn't going to be like
it's not a PS3 cell processor.
Yeah, this isn't going to be them like, okay, we're going to spend the next 3 years working on Days Gone for PC. This is like something they can probably get done relatively fast, that it won't be a distraction for like the development team, or if they have to hire a third party, they can get it done. Right. And it can squeeze out a little bit more sales, give the franchise just a little bit more recognition. And then when they announce Days Gone 2, there might have some people being like, okay, so I might have to wait 2 years after Days Gone 2 is announced before I could play it on PC, or jump into the console, which is what Sony ultimately wants.
Right. Or it's like, hey, I had a really good time playing that game on PC. Like, I didn't know it was a thing. Oh, there's a second version of the game. Oh, it's only on PlayStation. Okay, let's go get a PlayStation. Like, the whole circle, it's fine. Like, and this is great for Sony long term. Like, fantastic.
I still
obviously Horizon did well enough.
Yeah, that they're like, oh yeah, let's try Days Gone. And it's low stakes that if like Days Gone turns out to be a bad PC port, it won't be the end of the world. It's not like their big marquee franchise. Like, it's a game worth taking the risk on. And I'm like fine with this. Like, as long as they still keep like some sort of timed exclusivity, like even though I have a PC, I hate playing on it. So like I will always prefer to play a PlayStation game on my PlayStation, but it at least gives people the option. But if you want to make
or the comfort of knowing, hey, I'm okay. I'm okay waiting. I got plenty of stuff to play. I can wait 12 or 18 months. But the fact that it's coming and then it's console exclusive for 12 or 18 months and I can play it on PC then, like, just to know like that the possibility is there versus before it was like, no.
Yeah. All right. Next bit. Gran Turismo has been delayed to 2022.
Oh my God, really? No way.
Which is, I think, the one game that we knew.
Unreal.
Yeah, never happened before. A Gran Turismo game has never been delayed. But this one is one that makes...
I think we said this in our prediction and our look ahead episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I knew this wasn't coming out in 2021. It was crazy to think it was going to be the one. Gran Turismo.
I mean, my heart rate's going up, man. I'm so surprised and shocked that this happened. Like, I can't continue the show.
Gran Turismo will sell a bajillion copies, especially a proper number. Out. And the more time you give them to make their car porn, the better it will come out. So just...
What is the possibility of like what Gran Turismo could potentially look like if they also release that on a PC?
it would probably be crazy. It would like give them, it would be one of those ones where the minimum specs would be like kind of outrageous based on like how that development team likes to take detail and push the hardware. So Gran Turismo delayed, not a shock, 2022. Will it make it to 2022? Who knows? Will it be 2023? I don't know.
It'll
probably.
come out December like 15th, 2022.
I feel like a couple of them have come out in December, so that would make sense. So there's that. One thing I found interesting is when we were talking last week about like, okay, they planted the flag for Ratchet and Clank. What's the 2021 lineup going to look like? And we got a little bit of an idea of that.
Yeah, so I'll read your bullet point while you're doing what you're doing. So
yeah.
Horizon Forbidden West is still slated for this year. Duh, it's coming to PS4. And it is mentioned with Returnal and Ratchet as PS5's big games this year. Yeah. No mention of God of War.
Yeah. The exact quote is, we're feeling pretty good about Returnal, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Horizon Forbidden West. And it's very much seems like that is their approach for this year, or those 3 games as being like the marquee PS5 games.
Which is March, June, and October, if you ask me then.
Yeah. Yeah, which you can then put all the other games that were supposed to come out. Gran Turismo has already been pushed out. God of War, I feel like the silence just guarantees like God of War is going to get pushed. So this is what we're talking about last week of like, what does the rest of 2021 look like? And I think from this, we have the answer. It's Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, and Horizon Forbidden West. I'm sure we'll get like a PS5 patch for The Last of Us Part 2 thrown in there or something. But this is probably 2021 for PlayStation 5.
Okay, so like you get August and September, you get whatever multiplayer facet Last of Us is teasing. Mm-hmm. And then you get Horizon as your October, November, your holiday exclusive game on both platforms with, consoles out in the, a good number of PS5s out in the wild, and, the marketing will be better on PS5, like they do. I don't know if that's going to be the phrasing, but, that's like God of War is not happening in 2021.
Yeah. And, this makes sense. I don't know how strong of a year this is, but we don't really know the size and scope of Horizon Forbidden West yet. But sounds still like a pretty good year. Like you got your spring game, which kind of gives me more confidence in Returnal, that like Returnal is being brought up in the same, sentence for their lineup.
What are their focus groups saying? Like what is our like some of their internal or playtesters, like what's the feedback been? Like most of the time, like we've talked about it before, like some companies are like, okay, the game's okay, and it's gonna be a thing. So the biggest question is, can Housemarque produce AAA quality? We don't know yet, and we're gonna find out, like in 2 months.
Yeah, well, but this to me feels like it might be a good sign that Sony's at least willing to be like, yeah, that Returnal is like part of our 2021 lineup, and it's like the head of PlayStation saying that it's not just like a sizzle trailer or a talking head. It's actual head of Sony saying that. And then we had a new announcement that new PSVR is in the works. Not coming this year. One of the things PlayStation Blog put out a post. Didn't really say anything, but the one thing that made me happy is as it's only going to use one cable to connect to the PS5, which thank God.
I haven't looked at mine, but like I know that there was, so it was an HDMI to a breakout box, and then like in terms of like what plugged into the PlayStation 4, I felt like it was just one cable.
No,
there was a massive cables everywhere.
You had HDMI in, HDMI out. You had USB in, and then you had the camera USB in. So I think there was 2 USBs, 2 HDMIs.
Yeah, but the camera was plugged in regardless. Like you didn't.
Yeah, but it's still like an additional cable that's in there. Like obviously the cable will still be there, but like,
well, you're still going to need the camera.
I believe
So
there were still
there's
2
three-
USB ports, cords,
Okay.
not including the camera, and then HDMI in, HDMI out, which makes it almost sound like maybe there won't be a breakout box, or if there is a breakout box, it's not going to have.
In terms of like less cabling is great. Like
Yeah.
less cabling is totally fine.
I was hoping they would say wireless headset, but I don't think we're
right.
quite.
But yeah, like in terms of like the breakout box, but I mean I remember it being convoluted, but I remember in terms of what had to go into your PlayStation not being crazy. But yes, if this is possibly just a cable running from the headset into your into your PlayStation, and that's essentially it, like cool.
Yeah.
Like that's great. You're still going to have a camera, and that's still going to take up one of your 3 USB ports, and you're going to have the VR headset plugged in, so you're only going to have one available USB port on the PS5.
Yeah, because there's only one USB port on the back, right?
There's 2 on the back, 1 on the front.
There's 2 in the front. Pretty sure. Dave's going to go check, so we're going to have silence. I'm pretty sure there's 2 in the front.
There's a USB-C port and a USB port.
Yeah. I never use the USB port. I only use the USB port in the back. No, I use USB-C for my external.
Yeah, there's 2 USB ports on the back, 1 USB port on the front, 1 USB-C port on the front.
Okay. I'm guessing the power of USB-C is going to be the port that's used for VR.
More than likely, and ease of use for the user to plug it into the front, as much as it's going to drive people crazy, that normal average gamers don't keep their headsets hooked up 24/7.
Nope, mine's in the original box. Every time I stop using it, put it all together. Like the breakout box is the only. Actually, that's packed up too. So anytime I get the inkling to play, I'll play for an hour and then I pack it up again. I still have to order my free dongle.
Same. I need to do that before I forget, because you got to write down like the serial number or something. So
yeah, so I might actually do that after we're done recording, just to get it over with. And then the last thing that was just announced a couple hours ago is there will be a state of play on Thursday. So no idea how long this will be.
probably Returnal focused, if I had to guess.
I would hope so. Returnal,
Returnal Ratchet focused. And
yeah,
then,
Returnal Ratchet, and then the Deathloop maybe.
Yeah. And they might be trying to get some Deathloop information out before the rumored Xbox event in March, after their Bethesda acquisition is finalized. So.
Yep. And then just a side note, people are freaking out because in a recent Xbox video, Phil Spencer has the Kojima mascot next to the Xbox logo, and Phil Spencer likes to hide things in the background. So who knows?
The Series S was in the background like 6 months before we even knew it was a thing.
The headset has been seen multiple times. There's a lot of little things.
What's the big deal about this headset?
I don't know. Like, I'm not.
Is it just $100 price point wireless headset? Like, I
It
love
looks like
headsets,
it's really good
wireless
quality.
Yeah,
and it's an official Microsoft one.
I
so
need
people
to
are
read about that. So
yeah, people are just excited because it's like an official headset for Microsoft, so it has their seal approval on it, and it's like the $100 price point.
yeah, but they've been putting like Xbox approved on, like, my Turtle Beaches came with like an Xbox approved like sticker on it. Like,
but it
great
wasn't.
for
But it was Turtle Beach, so people are I guess just excited.
I thought it was because Microsoft was even touting it in some of their stuff. But I mean, that's
yeah,
fine.
but now this is like their
if it's
their
that
branded.
important for you that the matte finish on your headset matches the matte finish on your Xbox Series X, more power to you.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be good quality, but like I really like my Rocat ones and then my Turtle Beach ones. So.
It's $100 headset. Don't be too hyped about it, guys. So.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I have for news today. Again, that Tuesday worked out for us. Just a ton of news, and I'm sure I missed some stuff in that GQ interview. Oh, he's wearing like a nice sweater in the pictures.
All right, so what we're planning on watching, let's get it out of the way right away. No spoilers, but I'm up to date on Wandavision. Are you up to date on Wandavision?
Yes.
Okay, so they're definitely getting ready to ramp up. They only have 2 episodes left, so
yeah,
this was kind of one of those things
weird.
where I was like, all right, they're finally starting to, what I have to remember too is that there's probably plans for WandaVision season 2. So like there's going to more than likely be some kind of cliffhanger. You don't think that they're going to do a season 2?
No, they already announced what she's doing next, like a year ago. So.
Oh, okay.
I feel like if I say it, it's a potential spoiler, so I just won't.
Okay.
MCU does the horrible thing is where they announce their next 10 years of film and television, and then it just spoils like so much for me because then I put everything
yeah,
together.
because like I mean, then they got a lot of work to do in these next 2 episodes.
Let's just say the conclusion for the show is probably going to happen in a movie that comes out next year.
Okay, so let me ask you that then. How do you feel? Because like we had this conversation years ago with like Agents of Shield, where like Agents of Shield like literally put like a disclaimer at the beginning of their show that says, if you have intentions of watching this movie, you should watch this movie before you watch this episode. So how do you feel about having to know what happened when? I'm sorry. What happened when? I'm trying to phrase this correctly. How do you feel about being lost in a movie because you don't subscribe to Disney Plus?
I don't care because I am subscribed to Disney Plus and I watch all the Marvel movies. So I don't really mind it. I think the only annoying thing with Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. is it was running at that time. I don't think Disney's going to run into the situation where they have a show running around the same time a movie's running. Okay. If that makes sense, there won't be a new episode being dropped.
Whatever effects happen from WandaVision will be 6, 8, 9 months down the road or longer.
Yeah, like the WandaVision conclusion is going to be taken care of next year in a movie, and I'm fine with that because Winter Soldier and Falcon will probably deal and have a bunch of little breadcrumbs, Easter eggs leading to the next thing. I'm excited for how that goes. I'm going to be sad though when it's over because I think it's a really good show.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then hopefully like leading into the, like they're talking about in chat right now, leading into the Captain America Falcon Falcon Winter Soldier show should be interesting. The only reason I guess I thought or assumed that WandaVision would have a season 2 is because of like what they've been doing with Mandalorian. But I guess now that they're trying to integrate, maybe they're just using Disney Plus as a way to tell smaller increments of stories to make to flesh out the MCU movie universe better.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to do that with all their shows because they're using the big actors from the movies to where you probably can't get, Elizabeth Olsen to be like, yeah, this is your thing for the next, we're going to need you for 9 episodes every year for the next 5 years.
Yeah, which would be great. Like people talked about though, Disney Plus would be great for smaller characters that maybe may only show up in a movie like once every 5 or 6 years, like to have their characters fleshed out more. So
they just got the rights back to Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, so hopefully we'll get them soon.
And then playing, I put a couple things out on Twitter and social media this week. It's been a lot of Destiny. So and it's a matter of again, some of my friends are playing, and then the feeling of being rewarded for your time with loot and then activities that are in the game. Now they could be just front loading the season heavy, like very heavy, but they released an exotic quest mission in the game on essentially like on a ghost ship with a brand new mechanic that they hadn't really done before. They do exotic quest missions so good, and so well that I've been helping some people get through it. And then like this week they just released the master difficulty level of it. So in terms of like what they're trying to accomplish and build in this in there right now, it's good. The story narrative is good. The weapons and the rewards are good, and it just makes me look forward to what they have to offer either later in the season or in their future seasons. Like I mentioned earlier, their studio is expanding massively. Some of it they hired somebody that has like 10 years of experience at CBS Viacom to be like one of the heads of this studio expansion. So it's like there has to be some kind of media thing that they're trying to tell. Is that going to be Destiny stuff? Who knows? They have that money from NetEase from years ago. There's another IP in the progress in that's being made I think it's called like code names like Mercury or something. That like a lot of the Destiny people are working on. They announced changing of some of the people, whether you like it or not. Luke Smith is going to be the head of like Bungie. In terms of like the gaming side of it, and then they promoted a couple other people to the head of the Destiny franchise, so they're definitely splitting into multiple franchises. Some people have asked me if I think that this is going to affect Destiny or Destiny 2, like if it's going to like possibly hurt Destiny 2's development. I don't think so with the tripling of the studio or the increase of the studio that they're doing, and some of the money that it looks like they appear that they have, and then just other avenues of spreading out the team and the people that they've hired. But it also sounds like that Destiny will be going farther after Lightfall. So they announced the next September 2021 expansion of Witch Queen, and then they also announced the September 2022 or the fall 2022 expansion of Lightfall, and then people thought that might be like the end of the Destiny franchise, but it doesn't appear that that's the case, so that looks really interesting. But if you've stepped away from Destiny because you, for whatever reason, maybe spend the $10 and check in again. Like, the Battlegrounds game mode is really, really good. The exotic sniper rifle, or I'm sorry, the exotic scout rifle is really, really good. The way that you're generating rewards in the game, it feels pretty good. It's not without its faults, but in terms of rewarding your time, I think it's pretty good. There's obviously always room for improvement. But I'm very happy with the state of Destiny. I always play it, and I probably always will play it. Like, that's not going to change. But it kind of started feeling a little bit more like a checklist of chores. And now it's like, okay, yeah, I'll help you. Like, it's fun. Like, I enjoy doing that. Like, let's do it, even if I didn't get anything, and just messing around with stuff. Like, it just felt really fun. It is my game. It's the game that I love and enjoy playing. And sometimes it would be like, all right, I don't really feel like playing anything else. I'll just play Destiny because I just want to take up some time. But now it's like, okay, I want to play Destiny. I want to see what happens this week. I want to see what I can get as a reward, or I want to level my character because there's stuff that I want to do that I want to be at a higher power level for. And it's fun again. And I know some of you are going to be like, oh, great, Dave's only going to talk about Destiny. I'm diligently going to try not to do that, but the game feels really, really good right now.
Well, we'll just put you on a cool-off period where you can talk about it one week, but the next week you're not allowed to talk about it, and we'll just do that.
But I mean, and for the most part, it's just like we like a lot of the snow that we got this week kind of affected some of that. Like, we got a lot of snow, and then it's just stuff going on. Nothing crazy going on at home, but it's been a lot of Destiny. And I told people this in retrospective of how I felt like last season. It took me, like, I was like 2 weeks before, a week before the season ended, I'm like, all right, I'm at like level 94. Like, I need to get to 100 just to get this stuff done. Like, I can't be that close and not do it. And like, we're 14 or 15 days into the season, and I think I'm like 64, like level 64 already. And that's also has to do with, again, some of the quality of life that they did with like the seasonal challenges, that you complete a challenge in a week, it gives you a huge chunk of XP. But the great thing about it, though, is like, if I don't play for like 2 weeks and I sign on, those seasonal weekly challenges don't go away. So like, you can still, like, you could come in the middle of the season and start knocking off those challenges, and it kind of gives you a little bit more of a roadmap of direction of how to play. So like that's like super helpful, and it's really fun. And I was even talking to some people, like, I can't forget. I know like Darren Allen is in our Facebook group, and he's on Xbox. Like, if you guys want me to play on Xbox, like, tell me. Like, I know that like Randy will play on Xbox. I know Johnny was playing on Xbox and he's not now, but there's a guy that I used to work with that I forgot played Destiny, and he plays on Xbox. Like, the reason I don't go on Xbox is because I don't have friends on Xbox. If you guys tell me that you want me to do something on Xbox, I'll go there. And I'll go on PC if needed, because I can do that, and my player goes back and forth, and it's great. So, but that's it for me. So hopefully, at least you had a couple days off of work, so hopefully you got some variety, because mine wasn't.
Yeah. So I started playing No More Heroes. I bought, when it was on sale, probably in December. I bought the remaster. It's just a port. It doesn't look much better than it did on the Wii, except it doesn't have you could use motion controls, but it just has regular control support. I had a Wii, but I just never used it, so a lot of the games that people really loved on the Wii, I just never bothered with, and this was one of them, so I finally started to play it. It's definitely of a certain time. It's not quite clicking for me just yet, but I'm willing to see it like through and see where it goes. The combat is pretty fun. You can tell it was built for the motion controls, because everything seems very much like swing this specific way with the analog sticks, that I just imagine that's what you would have to do with your arms to do the motion. So
you play No More Heroes 1?
Yeah, No More Heroes 1.
Okay.
So the controls are fine with an actual controller. I actually finally bought like the Switch Pro controller, which is actually pretty nice.
I like I'm so happy that Ubisoft sent me that.
Yeah, like I picked it up just because I had the Power 8 controllers and they were just having issues. And luckily, and luckily I bought like the insurance at Best Buy for them, so I was able to just get a gift card out for them, and then put it towards this, which was like fucking $80 or some crazy.
It's good though. It's probably one of the better wireless controllers that I've ever used.
Yeah. So I'm playing No More Heroes 1.
Sony needs to put whatever battery Nintendo put in their controller in that controller.
Are you having controller battery issues with the?
No, it just doesn't seem like it lasts as long as the Switch.
Oh yeah. This one seems to. I mean, I think it advertises like 40 hours. I'm actually burning through batteries on my Xbox controller, AA batteries, but I have a box of them.
I would have to show you what I bought for that because I'd have to. The box is laying around somewhere, but I got one of like the rechargeable like battery packs for that.
Yeah.
And this one actually has, because you have to be careful. It has Xbox S or Xbox Series plates and Xbox One plates. It needs different charging plates, and this one actually came with both of them. So.
Yeah, I just you showed me that controller, and that's a white controller, and now the battery pack is black. That would bother me, so I don't know if I might just keep burning AA batteries and being horrible to the environment.
It's not that bad.
That bothers the hell out of me. No, I can't do that.
The red, you can just buy the Valentine's Day controller. I saw an Xbox, their social community manager this is them just goofing around. And it did turn out orange. Did you see the TikTok or whatever, him putting the controller in the Cheeto bag?
Oh, no, I didn't see it.
It was hilarious. He was like shaking it like crazy.
Oh, yeah, can I say,
Johnny uses rechargeable AA batteries, which is a good call too.
Yeah, I might have to go that route. So I have a white Xbox controller. I have the DualSense, which is white. I've been seeing people post photos of the controllers getting really dirty. I've never looked at my controller and been like, my controller's dirty. I want to ask you that. Do you ever see dirt on your controller?
No, I mean, and I play a lot of games. I mean, obviously, like I play a lot of Destiny, so I'm holding the controller, like, and I mean, maybe just those people don't wash their hands. Like, I don't know.
Like, I've been every time someone posts a picture of like their controller, I'm just like, what is the shit in the sticks? Why is there like marks on it? And like, I was on Reddit and people were just complaining about how dirty the controllers gets, and I don't fucking get it. Like, my controllers are clean. Maybe I wash my hands too much because I work retail.
I mean, like, this is my PS5 controller. Like, it's not.
I don't know. I would like people that like have these controllers. Let me know if yours gets like dirty, because like mine, I've never noticed like marks on it or anything like that. But people post photos, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And then just people posting like these gnarly pictures on Reddit of like their controllers being dirty, and it's just like I don't get it. I don't understand. It scares me. It freaks me out. Okay.
Stop eating Cheetos and playing your console.
No, it's not even like it's like just dirt. Like, I don't know what people are doing. Like, if it was red marks on it, I'd be like, oh, okay, they're eating food because they're horrible. Yeah. So I'm playing this weird game on the Switch called Puss. It is a psychedelic like maze game where you're basically having to move through a maze, but you can't touch the walls or your character dies. It's weird. It's the big catch with this is it's a psychedelic as hell, and it just has a bunch of things you'd have to, if you have like epilepsy, you wouldn't want to play this game sort of scenario. It's one of those things. There's a ton of flashing lights. The game's super glitchy. The maze will change frequently with different patterns and like entrances and exits changing. Super weird, super difficult. Still can't figure out how exactly I want to play this game. Cause like the sticks are fine. If you use one stick, the character moves slow. If you use both sticks, it'll move faster. You can also use the Switch touchscreen, which I always forget the Switch has a touchscreen because I never interact with the touch. But that felt kind of awkward. I had a stylus I found that I'm like, oh, let me try using this. So I'm like trying to find like the perfect spot for me. I really
the Switch would be hard to hold and use a stylus though, like the way
I tried. I was trying everything I can because like the game is trippy as hell, which I like, and then it's got some pretty good music. in it. So I'm just trying to find like the perfect way to play it. This was on Apple Arcade and PC, I think last year. So it was made for touch.
What's it called again?
Puss, Puss.
Okay.
Your main character is a cat. So it's just one of those.
Of course you like it.
Yeah. There's an actual FMV of a cat getting sucked into a TV. That's pretty cool. And so the main game I've been playing is Yakuza Like a Dragon. So I picked this up. I remember this game started as like an April Fool's joke because the Yakuza games have always been like melee combat.
Is this on Game Pass or did you buy it?
No, I bought it. Like it went on sale for like $28, so I bought it for Xbox. The Yakuza games previously.
By the way, how cool is it that we just see a sale now? We're like, oh, we can just buy it.
Oh, dude,
no matter where it is, it's like, oh shit, it's on sale on Xbox. I don't have that. It's $40 on PS. I don't want it. It's like, oh, it's on sale. It's on whatever platform. Like,
no,
all right, let's just get it.
I had that moment last week where, like, on the ottoman in front of my TV, I had all three controllers, and I was just like trying to figure out which one I'm gonna pick up. But so it went on sale because it was funny because it wasn't on sale on PS5. It was like, or it was on sale, but it wasn't as much. It was like $45 on PS5 and Xbox. It was $28. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to pick it up on that. So instead of being a melee combat game, this is a turn-based RPG. So they got rid of that combat system. And it's full-blown RPG now. So you have a party that you can manage and build the relationships with, and the turn-based combat. It transitions really well to this play style. Like, I almost prefer it as this because the Yakuza games are always been long. I haven't played all of them, but I played like 4, 5, 6. And those games are long, and that combat system I felt like just wasn't deep enough of a system. So I would tire of them, and which is why I think I own all of them, and I just haven't played through all of them. This one, I really like this combat style. The turn-based stuff just works so well, and there's so much personality put into each character in your party with like the different abilities they have, and it basically embraces the silly side of the series, because forever, like, Kiru, the main character in the first 6 games, he was a serious dude caught between two worlds. The main story, which is like melodramatic soap opera level drama, and then the side stories, which were just like crazy, wacky bullshit. And his character would never change. And in this one, you got Ichiban, who is just like a naive dumbass, like, and super lovable. But the story, while still being like relatively serious main story and crazy side quests, they blend that just a little bit more, especially with the combat system of just like, this is just a game that's just super weird and bizarre and wacky. It's I love it. Like, the personality with this game has been fantastic. Just the weird things they do, like, at one point the character's homeless and he makes a friend with another homeless person, and the combat that his friend does in the party is like throw breadcrumbs at people so pigeons can attack. Or there's so many other ones where like he'll just throw cardboard on the floor and take a nap to regain health. There's like weird things that they do with the party members it's just hilarious, and I'm just like in love with the story. I really like Ichiban over the previous main character. So I'm full on into this. I think I'm already like 12 hours into it, and I picked it up over the weekend. So nice. This is definitely, we'll talk about it with one of the questions, I think, later. But it's definitely been one of those games where I just look forward to playing any chance I get, just because it's just so much fun. So that's been the main things I've been playing. It was just those 3 games.
Awesome.
For watching, it's been WandaVision and watching Sarah play and finish Final Fantasy 13 within a week.
Whoa.
About like 50 hours of that game.
Wow.
Over the course of a week. The funny thing was, so last night she determined that she was going to beat the game. And she forgot like how long that end game is, or like how long of a grind it takes to get there. So at one point it's like 2 in the morning, and she has to work. She has to wake up at like 6:30 in the morning. It's 2 a.m. and I basically had to be like, can you finish the game before 3 a.m.? And that like motivated her to where she ended up finishing it at like exactly 2:30, like credits rolled, all that stuff. But like that was like the longest session we've had for that game, I think, because she started at like 9 o'clock and then we finished at like 2:30 in the morning. So finally got to watch Final Fantasy 13 from beginning to end, which is a really good game. That soundtrack is so good. I know it's the controversial Final Fantasy game of the franchise, but like I really like that soundtrack.
Angela did something similar to me years ago with Last of Us, the first one. So
Yeah.
you remember on PS3 when you would like save the game and it would tell you like your percentage?
Oh, yeah.
I was at like 88 or 85% or something like that. It was like some Saturday night at like 11 o'clock at night. She was like super immersed into the story and she's like, well, you're going to finish tonight, right? I'm like, well, no, I'm tired. Let's just go to bed. She's like, no, I want you to finish. She's like, it's only like 15%. It was like 8 hours or 6 hours or something like that.
That's how it was. Like, because I was playing Yakuza and then she was like, oh, let's just finish up. I'm in the last area. And every hour would pass, and she's like, I don't remember it being this long. And we just kept going and going and going. And then finally...
Well, because then for us at like 2 in the morning, I'm like, okay, like Angela, like, I want to stop. And then she'd make me save it, and it'd be like 94%. She's like, it's only like 6 more percent. And I'm like, it's 3 a.m. Like,
well, the worst part is with a game like that is you'll have the issue of like, what does that percentage mean in terms of like, does that include side stuff that you're skipping or all
Right.
that sort of thing? So like, we didn't even have a percentage to go off of. It was just like, she remembered she was in the final area, but it was just a little bit of a grind. And surprisingly, you know, she was able to wake up for work at 6:30 with only 4 hours of sleep. I did do a coffee run, like early in the morning.
Thankfully,
but...
she's at work from home, so she didn't have to like work, like present herself to the public that day.
Yeah, it helped being work from home. But I have a
She's
feeling
in the chat. I'm fine, and she like like an hour later, Michael's gonna post a picture of her like resting her forehead on the kitchen counter like asleep.
Yeah, the cats are gonna just like consume her. That has been my weekend. I've been off the last couple of days, so it's just been a ton of Yakuza and Final Fantasy 13.
Johnny is a boy who needs sleep. Apparently, only nobody, Johnny, because you sleep while you play games.
Yeah, Johnny, you've literally have fallen asleep during gaming many times. I think there's some video of it somewhere.
All right. So questions and comments using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can send us those through any of the social networks that I said are linked in the show notes. Stefan Wren, which game world would you live in? For me, it would be Skyrim after going back to that game recently. I hate these questions because I don't really ever feel like I'm ever like physically attached enough to a world that I want to live in it for a game.
He picked Skyrim, and I feel like that's too dangerous. Like to like pick a world like Skyrim.
I just want to live in the woods. Like,
man, a lot of people get fucked up in that game who are just NPCs.
God, what happened to your buddy? He got eaten by a dragon after he was like frozen to stone.
Yeah, werewolves got him. Like that just seems too dangerous to live in a Skyrim world. I was thinking about it too much of just like, okay, I don't want to live in a dangerous world because I just know my abilities. Like, I'm not going to survive in, like, you know, no one's going to be like, oh, I want to live in The Last of Us's world. It's like, hell no. So, like, for me, I think lazy answer would be just like, see, I was going to say Animal Crossing, but even then, Animal Crossing would probably get super fucking annoying living in that world, owing fucking Nook money all my life.
The black web of Animal Crossing where he's got loan sharks.
Yeah, like I don't want that. Like I can get that in real life, but I guess Animal Crossing, because some of the characters are cool. It'd be nice to hang out with Bones in real life or Cherry.
Yeah, like I would probably have to opt out because I would say like some of my favorite franchises, like I have no desire to live in the collapsed world of Destiny, and then
you don't want to live in a Cosmodrome or whatever it's called that doesn't look great. You don't want a condo over there.
And then like the Zelda world, like just too much weird stuff happens. They keep putting people to sleep and reincarnating them in different bodies, like
and just horrible shit happens from time to time.
Yeah, it's like. Can I say like Mario when it's like normal? Like, because I don't want to live in Paper Mario.
No, because then Bowser is just going to pop up out of nowhere and steal your wife. Like, you're just going to have to deal with that. Or Wario doing some stupid shit. Like, no, like no video game world is livable except...
Can I live in Mario Golf World?
Yeah, a Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is the perfect world for me. You just chill in a farm, That's fine. I'm not much of a farmer, but I do have a couple plants that I've had for like 8 years that haven't died yet, so I might be able to do Stardew Valley.
All right. So Randy Pinnock asks, he had two things in here, but we're like focusing on the one. So he's like, unpopular opinion, PS Now is functionally better than Game Pass. The quality of the games is based on your particular taste, but they both have the ability to play games on console and PC, and PS Now has, in my opinion, the added advantage of letting you stream on your system, on the system, so I can play without using up space. Both statements that you make are true. I would say that xCloud is kind of will be changing that, because we've heard that's coming to PC, and I would assume sooner or later xCloud will just work on consoles. That maybe it's a reach, but it's a guess of mine. Like I can play any Xbox Game Pass game on my phone, on Wi-Fi or on 5G, and so like that is, I feel like that's coming. And then so not having to worry about space on your hard drive is valid as well. The biggest problem, and somebody made a comment on one of our Facebook pages the other day of like how much like admiration we have for Game Pass. You have to remember that Michael and I did not own Xboxes with, you know, for the previous X amount of years until this year. So that's a contributing factor to the value proposition for Game Pass for us. But the other thing is that I was thinking about this a little bit today. Like years ago, we all paid for cable TV and we watched like 2 or 3 or 4 things, maybe even 10 things, but you got access to like 100 things that you didn't watch and you paid for cable TV. Similar to what you do with like Netflix and everything now. We've already compared it to Netflix. But I know as a Game Pass subscriber that whatever Microsoft first party reveals, I can play on Game Pass.
Yeah. Well, for me personally, like I like the idea that I can download all of the games that are on Game Pass, like as opposed to PS Now, where you can only download some of the games, the PS4
like what
games.
I guess I don't know the answer to this, but can I play my Game Pass games? Like, can I play Cyber Shadow if I don't have internet access for 24 hours?
I believe you can, because my internet went down yesterday and I was able to play a Game Pass game, but it went down in the middle of my session, so it didn't.
Okay. I don't know. Does it verify the license once a week? Does it verify the license 24 hours? Like,
but it does come down to just preference. When you look at the two libraries, like I believe PS Now does have more games, but it's just a matter of those games speak to you. I think the reason we really like Game Pass
is stuff that we didn't play.
Yeah, exactly. It's just there's a bunch of stuff we just haven't played because we've been Sony for like all our lives.
I look at the PS Now library and I think it's really cool and I think it's really good. But there's nothing in there that says I want to get PS Now because I want to play A, B, C. I can go on Game Pass and say like I want to check this out. Like and they're
put all the Resistance games on PS Now, damn it, and then I'll subscribe.
and that's fair, and like that's fine. Like and to play where you want, play what you want, play how you want. Like that's kind of what the DDG community has been about. But it's just like for me, like between PS Plus, owning a PS3, owning a PS4, and owning a PS5, there's nothing on there that I want. But would I buy Hellblade 2? Probably not. But will I check it out on Game Pass? Yes. Would I have bought the Medium? No. But will I check it out on Game Pass? Yeah. Like now it's like I hear Gears is good. Gears 5 expansion, co-op expansion is good. Would it have made me go buy Gears 5? No. But now that I have access to it on Game Pass, like I'm gonna play it. Yeah. If PS Now did something like that, where like the new Ratchet and Clank or Returnal was on the subscription and it cost the same amount, it cost $15 a month or whatever, I would pay it.
Yeah.
And I would sing the praises of it if I knew I was getting Returnal and I knew I was getting Ratchet and Clank and I knew I was getting Horizon. Like I would pay it without a doubt and I would sing the praises of it just like I am with Game Pass. And I haven't even touched my Xbox in like 3 weeks. But I can go play Destiny 2 on there if I want to because it's on Game Pass.
Like if Sony or Nintendo did that, like I would be subscribed to all 3 services. Like no question, I would be on all 3 services. But
like so it's and again, to each their own. Like if there's things that you want to play and the ability to stream or to download, the options are there. Like that's awesome. The carrot on the stick though for me to give you $10 a month for PS Now isn't, in my opinion, currently at its state right now, good enough.
Yeah. Unless, like you said, they add first-party titles relatively soon. Day and date would be fantastic. But even if it was like 30 days after the release, kind of like what HBO Max is doing, where like the first 30 days the movie's available, then it goes away. If there's some sort of system like that, yeah, if that system was being PS Now, I'd probably subscribe, because then it would force me to like actually finish games. I threw Johnny's question in here as well.
So Mortal Kombat movie thoughts. I've heard some interesting things about the trailer. It's going to be on HBO Max, so I'll probably watch the movie. Yeah. But it might be something that I'll just watch on one of my days off. Angela will not watch that movie with me.
I actually thought the trailer looked good, but I also have low expectations for this movie. I am fine with it just being a dumb action movie about fighting. Mm-hmm. Like nothing in that movie trailer made me go, that's going to have a really good story. Instead, I was like, that was a really cool action scene. Oh, there's Goro. Oh, that's, Sub-Zero breaking off Jax's arms. Like, all that stuff was just like, this looks cool. I will probably watch it day one and then forget I watched it 3 months later.
Yeah. It'll be like Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's
hopefully better than that. But as long as it's on par or better than the first one, or no, as long as it's on par with the first one and better than the second one, I'm fine. Like, they can do whatever they want, and I'm good with that. But I thought the trailer, like the action at least looked really good. We'll see what the story looks like, and then I will definitely watch it day one. Maybe it'll become my favorite movie. I sometimes like shitty movies, but the bar's really low, so they don't have to do much other than give me a really good remix of the Mortal Kombat song from the movies. Like, that's the main thing. If they fuck that up, then I'm going to be upset.
Justin, the next question is from Justin Duncan. Thoughts on The Miz being WWE champ again? Hashtag Wrestling Minute.
See, I put the wrestling stuff at the end because we had 2 wrestling questions. I think it's good that The Miz is the champion. He's one of those wrestlers that he's been putting work in for so many years. And it's nice to just have like a straight up heel champion again, even though he'll probably only be champion for like the next week or 2. But sometimes giving the title to someone is just kind of telling them like, hey, good job, if that makes sense.
Well, also, I feel like the title changing hands, at least when I used to watch wrestling a little bit, it made it like, oh, when is it going to change again? Like, what are they going to do on Raw tonight? Is there going to be a title match? I think it kind of brings a little bit more intrigue,
Yeah, especially when they put someone in the title picture that isn't normally in a title picture. It's like 10 years since the guy last held the title or something crazy like that. So I think it adds just more excitement to it. And it's also just like, I'm a fan of his. So when they give a title to someone like that, it's just, even if it's only for a week, it's definitely one of those like, you know what, you deserve to have the title for a couple days, like some sort of acknowledgement for your work. It's the employee of the month thing of wrestling.
All right, and then Penwell writes on Twitter, says, oh, and what would be the best way to get into wrestling nowadays? With so many storylines, is it hard to keep track? What platforms are matches on? So,
WWE Network is around for the next 2 months. That is the best way, but they are moving to Peacock in March or April. So Peacock would probably be the best option going forward because it is cheaper than a WWE Network. I think Peacock with ads is like $5, and WWE Network with no ads is $10, though they still slip in some ads here and there. So WWE Network is number 1, Peacock is number 2. And then there's also like the YouTube channel is actually really good for random classic matches for that. But obviously the library is significantly smaller. But if you're looking to jump into wrestling, I think the best place to start is like NXT, because it's a 2-hour show once a week as opposed to like main roster or whatever, Raw and SmackDown. You're basically trying to do 5 hours a week of television, which is just too much for me. I don't watch Raw and SmackDown. Like I will watch NXT and then Raw and
Find a YouTuber that does a really good job of recapping what's going on.
Yeah, that's honestly is the so it what's funny for like Raw and SmackDown, an hour after the show's complete, they put highlights of every match on YouTube. And you get each match in 2-minute chunks. Like, that is, like, a good way to catch up with the story. Because it could be painful. Like, I would never recommend to anyone that they watch Raw and SmackDown every single week. NXT is a little bit more consumable because it's, like, a straight-up wrestling show with a little less of the cheesy story stuff, and it's only 2 hours a week. And if you watch it on Hulu, I think it's like they cut the 2-hour show down without commercials to like 90 minutes. So that's the best way to watch. I'm interested to see how Peacock is going to handle it, because I don't really like the Peacock interface. I don't know if you've like interacted with it too much. I think everyone's got a free subscription to it through their cable provider.
Same thing. Like there's not NBC doesn't have enough television to prompt me. Like there's nothing that's intriguing my interest enough on NBC.
Yeah, the one thing that's going to suck is like right now on the WWE Network, you can type any wrestler's name into it, except for some of the wrestlers you wouldn't want to type their name into it, and they'll pull up every single match that wrestler's been in. And that's built into the WWE Network, which is very valuable for like wrestling fans like me who want to watch a very specific match or show.
Peacock, if Peacock was smart, then it would just be an app within an app, hopefully.
That's what I'm hoping. Like Peacock, I don't see them building that into their infrastructure like fully. So I'm hoping they have some sort of solution for that, or the ability to like make a playlist and share it with people would be really nice. But that's just me hoping for something.
All right. That is our show for this week. So again, please feel free to send your questions anytime you think of them. Michael keeps a document of them going. We got a lot of questions actually this week and then we had a lot of news this week. So we definitely held some questions off. So please don't be discouraged if you don't see your question each week, and don't stop asking questions. If anything comes to mind, if it relates to whatever news that we're looking at, we'll probably try to answer it within the news story. Or if it's like a funny one-off thing, we'll obviously just add it there because, doing the wrestling stuff is fun, and Mortal Kombat is obviously fun as well. So the social networks, follow us on Twitter at the main account is at Digital Days Pod. Michael's is at the first MJC 1ST. I am at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group, Discord is all linked in the show notes. Please don't forget that we have a Teespring store as well with shirts and hoodies. Check those out if you want to buy those. Those links are in the show notes as well. And our Patreon is there, patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming. Where I was half joking and half serious with somebody about it, and like when I was talking about the Joy-Cons, they're like, "Yeah, those are cool," and I gave him the link, and he's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Dude, I was totally kidding." Like, it's more or less just me messing with you. However, if you would like to financially support us, Patreon is the best way, and you get a couple things in return. You can get access to the podcast early on the $5 tier. You can get a bonus episode on the $7 tier, private Discord access on the $3 tier, which we need to do a better job of using. And then the $1 tier is just like a virtual like tip jar for us. Like, thank you. The $1, just as an example, tip jar. If you chose to do that, you are essentially paying for 1 month of podcast hosting fees for us. So that's a huge help in terms of we use Simplecast, and that will the $1 tier just pays for that month. So all the Patreon people are always appreciative, as well as just sharing and reviewing the show is a huge, huge, huge help, and that's also appreciated. So I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.